Welcome back to another Chit Chat with Just Vanning It midweek special.
Hello everyone, welcome back. Let's jump straight into this. What we got this week? We've been on the road for 3.5 years. We've just worked out 120,000 kilometers we've done.
120,000 kilometers.
With that comes things that break. So let's jump straight into it.
Alright, so on the road since January 2020, and in the 3.5 years we've had 3 caravans,
Right.
and 2 tow rigs. And what we want to share with you today is our experience of exactly what broke over that time, and also some hints and tips on preventing damage and breakages to your van and rig and maintaining your van. Essentially, don't do what we did.
So this is just what's happened to us. So basically it's not all blue skies and rainbows. What do they call it?
Rainbows and butterflies.
Rainbows and butterflies. Now, yes, it's been 3.5 years, so it's been a bit longer than generally people would do. Maybe 11, 12 months. So take a 12-month gap year. But some of the stuff happened within those 12 months, and some have happened a little bit longer. So we just wanted to share that with you, and hopefully some of these tips and what's happened to us, it can be prevented, like Sue just said. And we're going to explain it and how we managed to fix it. There is a big one in here that cost a bit. So let's jump straight into it, hey? What's the first one there, darling?
The first one was a doozy. So we were in Lang Lang, at Lang Lang foreshore.
Never been there before?
No.
We never really had been to like Victoria itself. We'd flown through Melbourne, so we didn't quite know the weather pattern down there. Then this was 5 months into our travel where COVID had just hit and everyone was starting to talk about it.
We reached a stage where we needed some clean awning, so we shot into town to do the laundry.
Yeah, it was only like 15 minutes up the road or something. I can't, Pakenham, I think it's called, from Rangi.
Yep. And Victoria being Victoria with 4 seasons in one day, while we were out, a massive storm rolled through, and we had left the awning out, and we had
it was strapped down, like all tied down as much as you can. We didn't quite have the storm, what do you call this, anti-flap kit, but we had the rails and some straps that were holding it down. We left some windows open and stuff because we wanted to air the sun was shining.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically.
And cut a long story short, the storm absolutely destroyed the awning, and it also destroyed the blinds. So it took us a fair while to have this. In fact, we couldn't repair it because there were such a shortages of awnings in Australia. So everyone we were phoning literally didn't have any awnings in stock. So a couple of tips around that. Number one, obviously, is make sure that you put your awning away if there is bad weather coming. Keep your eye on the weather, and put your awning away if you're leaving the campsite for a certain amount of time, which is quite extended, and also close your windows up, because we really learned from being away for I think it was half an hour, an hour initially.
And the problem is where we went to go to the laundromat and go to Coles to get some food was literally about a half hour away. I think it's about a half hour away, and it happened when the laundry was sort of on a half cycle. I looked up, I said to Sue, I said, oh, it's coming. Yeah, I could have left Sue there and driven back, but by the time we even got our washing out and we got back down to Langi, the windows, well, we just kind of made them work. We left the blind open, sort of half closed, and from the wind, it sort of peeled. It was like the aluminium film sort of looking one. So all that white stuff peeled off of it, and yeah, it sort of just
and they tore
a little bit. And look, we still use them, but you know, when we came to sell the van, no one wants to buy. It needed repairing, and we couldn't get anything, and we didn't know the brand, because the very first caravan we bought, that company had gone into liquidation, I think in 2015. It was a Universal, and we couldn't find anyone to find out the brand of the windows. So I spent hours looking through pictures on Google trying to figure out what brand it was, and then I managed to find the brand, and I reached out, and likewise they said, mate, you're 7 to 12 months away from looking at getting windows. And I was like, well, yeah, okay, well, you know, so prevent that happening.
And now we basically put the awning away when we're leaving the campsite. Derek actually packs the awning away every night, just in case wind comes up while we're sleeping. And also while we travel, and this is a top tip, which many of you probably know, but we didn't know, is that we travel with the blinds open.
And when we say open, I'll pop this one open, you might go dark. So that is actually fully open. We don't travel with the screen down. And we actually travel with them like that. And this was actually told to us by Vacationer when we did our handover. So that was very nice of them to actually have told us that. So if you didn't know that, and we're just gone 12 months into this caravan. We've taken it up to Cape. We've tackled a few corrugated roads and bitumen roads and everywhere, salt water, everything like that. And the blinds have actually, they're dirty. I'm not going to lie to you there, because we need to figure out a way to do that. And I think there's ways to do it. Some people actually take them off and rinse them down with a hose. So next time we're at a caravan park and I'm sort of twiddling my thumbs, which I don't do very often, by the way, I'll actually do one window at a time, but they just need cleaning. But their alignment hasn't shifted. They're still pretty, you know, pretty good windows. So it has I find it has definitely helped by doing that.
The reason for that is it takes the tension off it when you're traveling. So I highly recommend it.
And by the way, this is water.
Yeah. So is this.
I'm not sipping on a cheeky Jack and Coke or something. It's water.
And I don't have 1.2 litres of anything in this other than water. Which brings me on to the next one, which is actually the water pump. So we've had 3 vans, and in 3 vans we've had 4 water pumps go. Look, I just think water pumps are renowned for breaking. The first one that went, we actually had somebody else install and repair it. But Derek's pretty handy, so he's learned how to repair. The hint and tip around that is carry a spare water pump, because the problem is you don't know when it's going to go, and if you're off grid and you're obviously reliant on water, you have to have water, and it goes, you can find yourself in a pickle.
So yeah, we often say wait all the time, but there's few little things that we say and carry on board. Look, we know everything adds up, but carry, because I can promise you every time all these bits and pieces have gone wrong, have generally been when we're sort of traveling between towns and you've got nothing, or you're completely remote. So having a spare water pump on board, so check your water pump in your caravan, and then go out to like Roadtech or order it online as a little spare. So it's probably going to take up this much room. Positive and negative, you're going to undo the line. Obviously there's an arrow on the water pump, so please, like, if you don't feel comfortable doing it, at least you've got it on board and you can get someone to do it for you, and that way, you're not stuck. And it's happened to us once when we were up in Cape York, and the pump just stopped working. And what happens? A few people like us, and you're trying to save money, we had to go to a caravan park. And you're up in Cape York, you ain't going to get nothing up there, I can promise you that now. And so we carry a spare water pump on board with us now.
Yep. And just another little hint or tip around your water pump is, I'm quite guilty of this as well, when you're traveling, make sure you've turned the pump off. I think that's just good maintenance for the pump, not to have it running while you're traveling. And also secondly, it prevents flooding. So if you've got something in your sink and it knocks up the tap, well, at least it's not going to continue to push water through.
Those stories we hear often.
Alright. You can talk about lucky number 3, because it's about the Ford Ranger.
Right.
And this is the biggie.
This is the biggie. Now, we bought the Ford Ranger second-hand before we left Brisbane to tow our caravan, and off we went. And I did a little bit of research, obviously not enough research, and I jumped on and everything was fine. I did everything I could possibly think of that I could see, and the one thing I didn't do is I didn't put a transmission cooler on the Ford Ranger. Now apparently I found out when we broke down that this is quite a common thing that happens with the automatic transmissions, is they overheat when especially up in the higher temperatures, where the guy that fixed it said that you got the heat from the bitumen reflecting onto the transmission, plus you got the transmission working, towing, and it set us back 5.5 weeks off the road. And again, it happened in the middle of nowhere. Guys, we're not making this up. We were crossing from Three Ways, which if you don't know where that is, it's up the Stewart Highway towards Darwin. You get Three Ways Roadhouse and you turn right. I think it's the Barclay Highway. Changes names I think once or twice, but it will take you to sort of Mount Isa, Camberwell, Mount Isa, and then if you keep going it comes out sort of around Townsville.
And the only thing in between is actually the
Barclay Homestead, which is 200 or odd K away from Three Ways, slap bang in the middle. The light came on. The bloody dreaded light came on, and the car went into limp mode. I pulled over and I switched off the car. We tried to start it. The light went away. I drove 2Ks and went back into limp mode, pulled over. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Back then, no sat phone, no Starlink, no phone reception. We had cell phone go, nothing worked. Long story short, I'll put a little link up here. There's a 2-part video that we made when we broke down. I'll put one up now, and then maybe a few minutes later I'll put up the second one. And
that was a full breakdown.
Full breakdown.
It was a tow truck. It was 2 recoveries, one to Mount Isa.
We had a rental car involved. So what happened was Sue got a lift to Barclay Homestead. She rung our RACQ at the time. They sent a guy out from Tennant Creek. No one could tell me. So when you're in a situation like this, and drop a comment in below, because we thought we did the right thing. When you're stuck on the side of the road, Sue had never towed the car, and we looked at each other and we're like, well, who's going to go and who's going to stay? Who's safer? Do I leave Sue on the side of the road, or do I send Sue with a stranger to Barclay Homestead? Or do I,
it was a terrible
what
situation.
would you do? We looked at each other and said, all right, Sue, you go. Fortunately, this lovely lady stopped, and funny enough, no truckies and no one stopped. There was a guy from the station out there that stopped once Sue had gone, and this lady stopped. And
this lady travelling by herself in remote northern
territory, wherever
yeah.
And she took Sue to Barclay Homestead, but no one could phone me to tell me that what was going on. I just sat there. Hours went past. It was 35, 40 degrees. I had Sophie with me at the time. We couldn't run the system off grid. I was sitting there spraying Sophie with a water bottle that I'd found that, spraying her, going outside, spraying myself. Anyway, the guy got me going to Barclay. We decided at Barclay to phone RACQ, and they sent out a tow truck, towed us to Mount Isa. 2.5 weeks in Mount Isa. They could fix it. They were saying that I should put a whole new transmission in, which was $13,500. They had one in stock, but they could only fit me in 6 weeks. Anyway, we got hold of a guy in Townsville. I then phoned RACQ. They towed the car to Townsville. We rented a car. This was through COVID as well. We couldn't fly because of Sophie. We rented a car one way to Townsville. $1,000 for us to rent a car. We didn't have a caravan to sleep in that night, so fortunately we carried a 2-man tent. Why, I don't know, but we had a 2-man tent with us. Got to a caravan park in Townsville at 9 o'clock at night. People
and
were
started setting up a 2-man tent.
Yeah, anyway, we got sleep, and our caravan arrived the next day. We got it back on the road. And the guy that said to me, if you have an automatic transmission and you can put an aftermarket transmission cooler on, do it, because after that we had no dramas, and the guy fixed it for me. So
that's the hint.
The hint is, if you have an automatic transmission, find out if you can get an oil or transmission cooler put on immediately and put that on, because they tend to run a lot hotter. And also, a little gadget you can buy yourself, which if I had it on board with me, I could have cleared that code as a scan gauge. And that guy that came from Tennant Creek had a scan, but he had a little bit of a fancier one,
He
on
had
heartband
a
and
bit
all
of an
that.
industrial
All he told me
scan.
was to do is take a photo of the thing. He cleared the code, and then we drove to, and then obviously sitting on the side of the road, maybe the transmission cooled down, and we got there. So if I had a scan gauge, I could have most probably cleared that code myself, taken a chance and driven to Barclay Homestead, where I could have googled something and made some phone calls. So that could have saved us a bit of money. But RACQ were a great help. And we did not have to pay for a thing. We obviously paid our yearly thing, and they were so good to us. They rang us up all the time, made sure we had bread, like food, water, all the time, kept us in the loop.
Covered accommodation, covered the recovery. So that's the final part of the tip, is roadside assist. It's probably going to be the best thing you do for yourself before traveling around the country, just to make sure that you are covered in an event that you do need recovery, whether it's your car, your van, or both. Number 4. So this one was actually really lucky. And sometimes you got to think something big is looking out for you out there, because when we had picked up the new caravan, it was also second-hand.
Yeah, we sold the first caravan to a company in Townsville, and
we bought the Nova.
They took it in with the awning and everything, insurance paid out. They had something there that we could have, because again they said they would have to wait for parts, and we were like, we can't. So what the idea with there was, they had something in stock, and we struck a deal with the guy, and we bought the new single Nova. Well,
second-hand.
Second-hand. New to us, but second-hand.
And then we jumped in it, and we towed it from Townsville in northern Queensland through to South Australia, and we pulled over on the side of the road for a bit of a stretch, and
just outside Port Augusta.
Yeah, thank goodness. Derek has got eagle vision, because he was having a little stretch and he just happened to look down and said, what's going on with that tyre? Anyway, on closer inspection...
Can I just say something? Myself and Sue, we had a little argument in the car.
Did we?
Yes, we did.
Is that why we pulled over?
We travelled from Townsville to Port Augusta, was 3,000 something Ks for the summer in 4 days. We got videos up with that as well. We left Townsville, drove all the way 3 ways, turned down, and went all the way down Port Augusta in, I think it was 4 days. So you can see why we had a little bit of an argument in the car.
A little bargee in the car.
So there was a bit of silence, and I pulled over the side of the road, just outside Port Augusta, stretched my legs, clear my head. I don't know, something said to me, look down at the tyres, and...
You see, love, I argue with you for a reason.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, everything happens for a reason,
I'm always right when I argue with you. And Derek looked down, and he just saw that the tyre was... well, you can tell, because you actually
saw the right. I think it was the right hand, the driver's side tyre. I just looked, and I could see... the inside of that tyre had run that ball that the canvas was showing, or parts of it, not all of it, to be fair. And my heart just sank. Like, I was like, oh, you Joe, I've got to get another tow truck. Like, when are we ever going to get a break? I said to Sue, I think we were 20 Ks or something outside of Port Augusta. I said, we're going to go back in slow. We phoned up, got a caravan site in Port Augusta, and while I was driving that 20 Ks, we put the argument aside. Sue made a couple of phone calls, and the only person that could do caravan wheel alignment was back in Port Pirie. So if you don't know, Port Augusta is, I think, like 80 Ks from Port Pirie. Sue rung up a tyre guy in Port Pirie, and he had 2 tyres for us, and I said, let's change all 3 just to keep it all the same. And we managed to do that the very next day. Yeah, we got to Port Pirie, and the guy fitted the tyres first. Obviously, you can't do wheel alignment, and then I took it around literally up the road, and the guy did the wheel alignment for me.
And it was completely out.
Completely out.
Yeah.
So
I think here the learning from this is, make sure when you buy a van that you have the tyres balanced. And we were just really lucky that we managed to find a company that actually balances caravan tyres, because usually it's only like the truck.
It's not just balancing tyres, love, it's the wheel alignment.
Or the wheel alignment and the balancing. And then also keep a regular eye on the health of your tyres. So just a regular whip around, visual inspection to make sure that your tread's looking good.
If you start seeing a little bit of uneven wear, I'd book it in straight away at the closest wheel alignment place that you can get it done, before you end up having to replace tyres like we did. Now, the reason why I changed those 3 tyres is that Nova had those, I don't know, some other brand.
A cheaper brand.
I didn't know it, and I couldn't get the same brand at Port Pirie. This is why when you know, we built the vacation, and when we could actually build our own caravan, I decided to put a tyre on here. It's not about looks and brands and all of that. I put something on that is more regularly available out in the you might still have to have it shipped in, but I think that tyre was gonna, the guy said he never even heard of it, so I just said, mate, just change all 3 tyres. We live in this thing full time, we tow it, you know. So,
and if you want to know why we didn't put the spare on, it's because
why didn't we put the spare
there wasn't a jack.
Oh, that's right.
There was no jack. But it has to be said that the dealership that we bought the van from, we got on the phone to them.
They were great.
They were amazing. They were horrified that there wasn't a jack, and they covered the cost of all the tyres for the replacement as well.
Yeah, they did.
There we go. And just to let you know, tyres include regularly tightening your wheel nuts as well. So,
like once a week I'll go around with, I actually carry a torque wrench. When we went up to the Cape, I bought one. So we could, especially up the Cape, I'll go around every time we travelled, and I'll torque up all the nuts on the ute and the caravan. So now I use that, and I just generally, if I feel like, you know, when you get that funny feeling, you've been doing a bit of the corrugated roads and stuff, I'd go around and check the nuts as well. So it's just a bit of maintenance on that.
Derek just loves any excuse for another power tool. That is the truth.
It's not a power tool, it's just a hand tool.
Torque wrench.
Yeah, it's just
Don't you have a drill?
No, just torque it.
Oh, it's a wrench.
Yeah, it's a wrench,
okay,
yeah.
Alright.
I think I got it from super cheap. It wasn't expensive. I think I paid I think it was 70 or 110 bucks for it. And actually a lot of people come up and ask if people do have one, and I'll say, yeah, mate, no worries. Just you got to get your torque settings off the internet, or phone up Toyota and phone up the manufacturer, and they will give you the torque settings for the nuts. So you just keep it on your phone.
Alright. And that brings up, look, when you're traveling, I know, well, for me, I'll speak from my own experience, there's nothing worse than when Derek says lights come on. Absolutely nothing worse. It's literally like your heart just drops through your belly. And we had this happen to us with, it was an oil light, wasn't it?
The oil sense, yeah, oil light came on, but it kept coming on like for 5 seconds, going off and then stay off, and then 5 seconds, like few k's down the road, it'd come on again, go off again, and I was like, stop, check oil, the oil level was fine, go again, come on, go off, come on, and this is on the cruiser, and I'd stop again, check it, sleep, like spend the night at a camp, wake up the next day, check it when it's cold, and for some reason this thing is telling me, or the dipstick is telling me, your oil is full.
So someone recommended that we do an oil change, so we did that just as a matter of course, but that didn't help, did it? So eventually we're very fortunate, like we met a wonderful friend on the road who just happens to be a mechanic as well, and he had a look at it for us, and it turned out it was the oil sensor. So he replaced that for us, and all seems okay. So hint and tip for that is obviously check your oil levels regularly, and just be prepared for the unexpected, because I mean, you never know when a light's going to come on, and trust me, it happens.
I think the reason why I get a little bit stressed, and like I said, everyone's different. Wherever we have these problems, like, you just don't know anyone. And the first thing that comes to my mind is like, where do I even start by phoning? And 9 out of 10 times you're going to ring like a mechanic shop, and they're going to be like, I can see you in 2 weeks time. And then I'm thinking, I'm going to be stuck in a caravan park, because this was in Newcastle. So no real free camping. And you just go, well, there's 2 weeks in a caravan park to get it fixed. And it's not about, I'm saying that you can get it fixed, it's just the cost behind it. That's the first thing that starts running through my mind, is the cost of like having to stay in a caravan park. Look, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, you know, you got power, you got water, you know, you're healthy, you're safe and everything like that. That's great. But you know, 2 weeks in a caravan park, it's like $500 plus the part, plus getting the car. Anyway, I don't know why I get that feeling every time something goes wrong. I just go, where do I going to start? I don't know anyone to call. Like, so.
And another light we had flick on, which was like heartbreaking, was we were actually out in like rural New South Wales. And I mean, we must have been in what, I mean, it's not the middle of nowhere, but I call it the middle of nowhere, because like there are tiny towns, but there's not much in the towns other than maybe a bakery or a servo. And another light came on.
We just got the cruiser actually in South Australia, and it was second hand. It had done 70,000 k's, serviced at 70,000, and we left South Australia to go back to Brisbane. And yeah, Sue was saying in the middle of nowhere, another light came on.
What light was it? The fuel
It's the
light?
So I didn't know this. So the light came on. It's like a dirty filter light on the cruiser. I don't know about other cars, and Sue, fortunately, like going through this mountain through the back of New South Wales, we're getting a little bit of internet with the Selfie Go, and Sue was trying to Google it, and I was driving, and I was like, should I pull over? I don't know what light it is, and it came out to the dirty filter light, and it recommended that you pull over.
Yeah.
And we were 10 k's from this little town, and I said to Sue, check if there's a Toyota dealer, and this is one of the reasons why we bought a Toyota and all, like a Land Cruiser, because when we got broke down with the Ford, the guy that stopped at the station said, mate, if you had a cruiser, we could have fixed the situation. Because out in the stations, they carry spare parts. Yeah. And
I, of course, had a giggle at Derek thinking a Toyota dealership here. Like, we're in the middle of nowhere.
I can't remember the place's name.
But there literally was, not just like an auto parts place, there was a Toyota dealership in this tiny little town. It was literally like out of somebody's house that it was being run. And they literally had a filter in stock. They couldn't fit it because they couldn't fit us in.
The Toyota dealership was an old house.
Yeah.
And I parked the caravan and car up the road, and I went in, and I said, this 2017 Cruiser, and I actually asked them why, like, it's been serviced, and they said to me, quote me if I'm wrong, but they don't change a diesel filter on a service. It's 70,000 on a Land Cruiser. And I said to them, oh well, I'm kind of traveling. They said, look, they can't fit me in, but one of the mechanics will come out, and it's a pretty easy process. And I said, well, look, I'm got pretty handy with my hands. I've got some sort of idea what's going on. They sold me a filter for $38, and I looked at it and I said, you know what, can I buy a second one? And she actually sold me a second one. I went outside on YouTube, and the guy explained, and all I had to do was Allen keys, pop the top of the oil, the diesel filter housing off, pop the filter in, put the new filter on. So we must have picked up dirty filter. That's what the gentleman said.
Dirty fuel.
Dirty fuel, yep. Sorry. And put it back on. Didn't know to pump the filter on the top. Started it, had my little happy dance on the side of the road. Did a thing.
And then went,
and it cut out, and I was like, oh. So I went back into the Toyota, and the guy said, oh, you got to pump the diesel. Went out, primed it again, started it, bang, she's good to go. So.
And at that stage, a lovely gentleman come running up the road with a tool bag you left on the pavement.
Yeah, I just a bit embarrassed about it,
but no, you did a great job. And look, the hint and tip from that one is obviously regular services, and secondly, well, we do anyway, we carry a spare
diesel filter.
Yeah,
it's not heavy.
Yeah,
it's just a little, you know, filter that with an O-ring in a little Toyota box. I've got a spare one in my car, because when you're driving around these remote places, you can. I'm pretty sure we're going to be picking up dirty fuel, and you know, if you service your car regularly, it should be alright. But like, look at me, and you know, if you're in the middle of nowhere with anything, like, yeah, it's difficult, and you don't know if you should drive the car.
Well, that's the thing. So, do you drive it? Don't you drive it? Do you call your roadside assist? Don't. Yeah. Anyway, there we go. All right. So this one wasn't too long ago. We pulled over to refuel somewhere.
Coming across the Nullarbor.
Yeah, coming across the Nullarbor, and I think I was sniffing around for a coffee somewhere. And I just saw that the whole trailer lead was lying in the dirt, and when I looked closer, the 12-pin plug had actually ripped off. So that meant we would have had no brakes,
no lights, no indicators, nothing. Dangerous situation.
Yeah.
But you know, like, fortunately it was daytime, but still, it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
But you know, Nullarbor, you're driving like. On the red arc thing, it actually tells you if your trailer plug is in. Didn't even bother, like, why should I keep looking at it? Just kept driving, pulled up. She pulled up alright, you know, just slowly geared down as I was approaching the roadhouse, and bang, no trailer plug. So Yeah,
So that
not
would have
good.
been a real pickle as well, but fortunately because we travel with boats and we were traveling with our friends Lisa and Jason at this stage, Jason was an incredibly smart guy and he just took the 12-pin plug off his boat trailer. Derek and Jason did a roadside
Slight little modification.
Yep.
Got the plug to work, made sure we had brakes, indicators, lights, and all of that to work, because our fridge runs off our battery system inside the car anyway, so there was no sort of separate for that. You shouldn't really run your fridge through those plugs. You should have an Anderson plug for that anyway, but those all sheared off as well. But the fridge runs off anyway. So we had all of that and managed to get to Esperance, where I could get I think it was super cheap or Repco or something, and we managed to get us another flat, because we run a flat plug on ours, some run a circle plug. But I think the hint and tip on this one is, and again, carry a spare plug, trailer plug, because it can just happen. Now we did the Cape, it never came off. How it came off, I don't know. Obviously maybe it was a human fault that I didn't push it in properly and had the cap hold it, I don't know. But we did the whole Cape. We've done, you know, back then it was 10 months traveling in this caravan, and yeah, it just popped off. So things can happen like that. And to get your RACQ out, to do that in the middle of nowhere, where something so simple you could have on board could get you out of drama, and you know, that's that. So there's another tip for you.
And if we don't carry like 20 spares, it's just these are the big things that have happened to us that we thought, this could be a real problem moving forward. So we probably carry spares on like 5 or 6 things, but we're just suggesting them to you, and it's up to you whether you choose to or not.
Alright guys, appliances, and this is just in general. So we had the aircon break on us in the caravan, which was under warranty, and I rung up ahead when we were on our way to Adelaide. This was in summer. 40 degree day. So what actually happened was the little sensor, your receiver sensor to your remote, had got condensation on it and broke, but I phoned up ahead and I managed to book it in Adelaide. It was a bit difficult in our situation because I had to get it there by 8 o'clock in the morning. Sue works full time on the road. She got an office in the city to go to. I had to drop her off, go back, hitch the van up myself, drive in traffic up to the northern parts of Adelaide, and it took the guy half an hour. And the idea was that, you know, I'll drop the van off. I had Bobby and I'll go out and spend the day puddling around at something or do something. The guy was half an hour in the van, was done, and I couldn't travel around. Now Sue's in the city. Anyway, I phoned up the caravan park. I explained the situation. They allowed me to come in earlier, check in earlier. I said I'd pay for it, just so that I didn't have to travel around and look for parking with a caravan, especially in like Adelaide. It's not easy. Then also we've had the fridge go on us up in Cape York. We called them the supplier, which is Chemic. They had me ask me when I was returning from Cape York. Fortunately, we had the upright fridge in the car and the pull-out freezer, and all of our friends helped us out. Like I said, it's always going to go wrong when you're in the middle of nowhere.
I
literally
think
Cape York.
We had stocked all the fridge and freezer.
Anyway, we had it booked in, got back to Cairns, took it in, and they tested the fridge, and they put on another brand new fridge back in for us.
No questions. It was in. Technician checked it overnight, determined we needed a new one, and popped a new one in. I think the important thing to call out here is when you buy your caravan, you get warranties on your caravan. The appliances all have their own separate warranty through the supplier. So not the caravan manufacturer, but the appliance supplier. And generally what it'll be just, you know, phoning up the supplier of the brand or the make of whether it's your microwave, your aircon, your fridge, and identifying a technician in the area. And they'll send you into the technician for either
Now, unfortunately, I will say, I'm not trying to, you know, things will go wrong, I'm afraid. You build a house, we've done it. Our house in Brisbane, we built from ground up 8 years ago, and we had stuff go wrong. We rung up the builder, and we got in touch with the warranty people because one appliance went broke on us. So again, same thing. We got hold of,
yeah.
I don't know what it was, whoever it was, I can't even remember. I think it was the oven, because we didn't go with the 2 ovens, we went with the 1 oven and a microwave on top. We called the supplier, they sent out a technician. Our aircon in our house,
yeah.
I could go on, but it decided the day that our tenants moved in, we moved into the caravan on a 42-degree day in Brisbane.
When we left for the lab.
We had in one of those, what do you call them?
Oh, I can't even remember.
Not the split aircon, we had a ducted aircon system.
Yeah.
It just decided to go, and we had to ring up the, we rang up the builder put us onto a supplier, he got a technician out, and obviously everyone was busy. But anyway, so these caravans as such, like, well, we towed around and on corrugation, so I'm afraid a lot of people get around the country with no good, with all good, but it's how the supplier will get on board, and they've been pretty good to us so far. So a little tip here is, when you buy a new van, even a second-hand van, some will come with like a little book where all the warranty stuff sits in. Fortunately, that Universal we bought had it all. The Nova had it all packed, showing they even had electrical drawings, everything going on. Obviously, when we bought this van, we got all our warranty bits in. I made a little list on my phone for like the microwave, the fridge, the stove, the fusion power system, the what do you call that? Extractor fan. I made a list, and I found out who the supplier was. So when we were driving, like traveling, if something went wrong with something, I knew who to phone prior, so I could phone up and go, hey, I'm on my way to Adelaide, Truma, for instance. They gave me a number for a guy that was a registered repairer in Adelaide. I rang him, I told him Truma, I'd give him your name, bang, booked it in, took it in, fixed it under warranty, had my receipt from the caravan dealer to say, hey, the caravan is within 12 months, bang, fixed it within a half an hour.
Done.
No signed paper, off we went on the other way. Same thing with the fridge. When the fridge broke, found out that Kamek was the supplier, rung them up, emailed them, guy rung me back, done, sorted. So there's a tip for you. Maybe just find out who the supplier is for everything, so that maybe you can just be one step ahead if something does go wrong.
You're not starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And I think the only other thing that sort of went wrong that's worth maybe letting you know about, because it's preventative sort of maintenance, is when we were doing the Uden data track, because obviously corrugations, and this has to do with
we were novices.
We were novices.
Oh my god, I didn't think you were going to bring this one up.
Yeah, loads
we
of
were
corrugation.
Novices. We had an on-road van, number 1.
On the Uden data track.
On the Uden data track with our Ford Ranger, heading north.
And to our surprise, we came inside and one of the doors had flung out. Everything had flung around the van, and the door was basically in pieces on the floor. And simply, you know, with all the vibrations, the screws had come loose. I think one had actually snapped. And, you know, obviously the drawer came out. So, Derek, what's your little hint and tip for this one? How do you go about preventing that from happening, and what do you do when you repair it?
Put your tyres down.
You put your tyres down.
So when we crossed the Unandata from the south side, which I think is a place called Murray, I think just north of the Flinders there, you start the Unandata track that way. So you come off the bitumen, you got dirt. I stopped there with people coming off. I said, mate, you know, and he goes, no, you didn't put his tyres down. So I'm like, well, I don't have to put my tyres down. Should have put my tyres down.
It was a rough ride.
We've said this in many times in videos. If you don't know, if you're just new to our channel, like, drive to the conditions, always let your tyres down. I'll put a little thing up here that we carry around with us. Is a set of tyre deflators. We use them a lot. We got a sneaky little discount code there for 10% off if you want.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with a good old rock or stone.
Yeah, but when I can do it so much quicker, so you know, the individual tyre deflators, just so much, just easier, quicker. I don't have to sit there and do it, and you know, anyway, let your tyres down, because that could have prevented it. But screws have come out not on the corrugations. They do work loose, unfortunately. Not all of them, some will. I don't know what it is. Maybe it just didn't take properly. They've over-tightened something. So what I did, when we got a Cooper PD, there's actually a hardware store in Cooper PD. I bought an epoxy, so two sort of like a syringe type thing. And it was $20 in Cooper PD. And what I did, every screw that comes out, I just squeeze a little bit on some cardboard, mix the epoxy, a clear epoxy, dip me little screw in, put it back in. So that I rebuilt that whole drawer system, and it never come undone again. So we've had I think 1 or 2 screws come loose on Nova and in the van. It's going to happen.
Because if it comes loose once, it's going to come loose again. So on the Nova, we just had, it was 2 of the screws around the oven that just kept working themselves out. You might have one in a drawer, you might have one in a tunnel boot, but as soon as you see it, that's a hot hint.
And also, like, some days we'll have a down day and I'll just work my way around the van visually and see what's going on. And if you see a little screw that's sort of half come out, I'll take it out, mix some epoxy, put the screw back in, and I will check that, because that now plays on the back of my mind, and I'll check it and they don't come back out. So if you can catch it before the damage is done, where there's nothing for the screw to attach onto, then you might get away with just using some epoxy like I did.
And carry some spare screws.
Yeah, carry some spare screws. And also I use epoxy. Most probably many people use something different. If you have, drop it in the comments below, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that reads the comments here. Maybe someone can learn something from you. Maybe use no nails or silicone, you know, whatever like that. So don't be afraid to drop a comment in below of what you've used.
Yeah.
But
we have to say overall we've been incredibly lucky, because the biggest thing that can go wrong is a structural issue. And with all the vans that we had, whether they were secondhand, pre-loved, brand new, we've never had structural issues. So we feel really lucky in terms of that.
I know that there's people out there that have been in worse situations than us.
Yeah.
We have come out unscathed.
Another couple who had a tree fall through their caravan in the middle of the night.
In Flinders Ranges.
Yep. So
believe me, we must probably be thinking like we're very lucky. We are. But we just thought we'd share with you what's happened to us in 120,000 Ks over 3.5 years traveling around Australia. And believe me, that some of the stuff might have happened if we were just back in Brisbane, like oil light coming on and stuff like that. We have travelled 3.5 years, where I think originally we were only going to travel for like 12 to 18 months, but then COVID came, changed everything, and we just love this lifestyle. And all this aside, we still love doing what we do.
We do love doing what we do, and we still learn every day and with every incident. But yeah, just sort of closing comments, I would say always inspect and maintain. So we hope you've had both a cry and a little giggle with us over some of the silly things we've done, like not letting down our tire pressures. But at the end of the day, we just hope that you continue to enjoy your travels as much as we do, and keep safe. So all in all, guys, we hope that you are enjoying your travels as much as we are enjoying ours. If you haven't hit the road yet, good luck with all your preparations. A big thank you for all your support. If you haven't yet done so, please do us a bulk solid, and hit the like and subscribe button down below. It really helps us grow our channel. Hope you've had a good giggle with us on some of the silly mistakes and preventable mistakes that we've made. But more importantly, hope that you stay safe in your travels.
See you guys.